Hello and welcome everyone. Welcome back to the New Being Hypnosis channel. This is episode 4 of the Web of Life series. And some of the themes we'll be talking about today are around body and um, programs that get stuck in the body, personal stories such as trauma, um, just personal stories, reprogramming, and how we get programmed. And perhaps I'll share a bit about how to deprogram yourself, a little bit of wisdom, as well as a bit about the subconscious mind and emotions, and even how that manifests and how we create the programs that manifest and repeat in our life, at least the mechanics of that concept. So get ready. We are in for a ride. It is an honor to be sharing my piece with you and to be sharing some wisdom with you. So let's get into this topic. So, about the body, of course, all of us have a body, and the body is an interesting tool, or a vehicle, kind of like a tool and a vehicle, as I understand it. Um, I've been learning about not only body anatomy, but functions and how the body functions kind of in tandem and in kind of in harmony and an interplay with the body, mind, and spirit for many years, even 10 years or more, going back to some of my earlier trainings in medical Qigong and Chinese medicine, and how elemental energies even affect the body and health of body, mind, spirit, how they play together. So let's talk about this for a bit. Basically, we start out, of course, as at least our bodies start out as embryos in the mother's womb. And so then it develops into a fetus. And then, of course, there's birth. And so from birth, even, we're conditioned um, by our mother and father in the first faces that we see. And so the subconscious mind, human subconscious mind, even probably animal too, and um, the mind has an interesting affinity for faces. I think everyone does. Some people a little bit more than others, and that's where pareidolia comes in, where some people see faces everywhere or other patterns, but especially faces, even in gemstones and crystals and clouds and um, other things, even just miscellaneous things like perhaps the way paint dries, perhaps the way a tree grows, trees bark anyway, and you name it. Pareidolia, which is part of I believe, part of the reticular part of the brainstem, that just searches for patterns. And so, right when we are born, we see a face, typically our mother's face first, or a doctor's face, even. And then, even though we probably forget the doctor's face, then we are exposed to our mother's face and our father's face right away. And for the first days, weeks, and months that most of us don't remember in infancy. And yeah, so there's that conditioning. And then there's another type of conditioning that is called suggestibility that I've learned from the Hypnosis Motivation Institute. And that suggestibility conditioning can change throughout life, but is especially developed throughout the first um, 8 years or so of our lives growing up in these bodies. And so that suggestibility conditioning is basically, suggestibility is the way we move into hypnosis. What types of things trigger us negatively or positively, and how we move into sleep too, how quickly we do. Um, I tend to take a long time to fall into actual sleep, whereas I know my wife and other people can fall asleep quickly, but everyone's different. So the suggestibility conditioning is also about how we behave, how just the minor mannerisms of how each of us behaves, if we're more extroverted or introverted, or more than that, just about if we're more physical and more sensitive to physical things or physical stimuli and people moving, and more demonstrative with our movements and talk with our hands, or what I've learned to call more emotional. And so that's more like less emotive outwardly, but very sensitive to emotions inwardly. And um, we each have a balance of each. And so, anyway, there's that conditioning. That can be found, I believe, public on YouTube from the HMI YouTube channel, or whatever the channel is named, about suggestibility. And you can probably search HMI suggestibility to learn more about that. They're not paying me to promote that, by the way. Um, that's just an example of how we get conditioned. And so, especially for the first 8 years of our lives, even beyond that, like during our teenage years and even adult years, we can get conditioned. But the first 8 years are when children are the most suggestible. And so that's why we get conditioned, um, with language, with the specific ways that we speak, such as with neurolinguistic programming, such as with the way we talk to ourselves, and even how we believe. If trauma conditions us to believe that certain types of places, or certain types of noises, or certain types of stimuli or colors, or certain types of even people or clothing, or languages or symbols or colors, and various other things, basically anything um, with negative or positive conditioning. And some people are naturally more sensitive to certain things than others. And so, anyway, our bodies get conditioned, and it's the childhood conditioning that is especially important to learn to decondition after you grow up. Some of it, especially the negative and unhealthy things and the traumatic parts. And so that happens to every child and every person, I believe, in some way or another. Some more severe, some less, and some just not very fearful or traumatic at all during the childhoods. So our bodies and our minds get conditioned. And so this will be another video talking about the interplay between the body and the subconscious mind and emotions. So our bodies, especially the tissues and nervous system, carry trauma and carry memory and experiences of what we are, who we tell ourselves that we are, and what other people tell ourselves that we are. And of course, there are certain parts of our brain too that get conditioned in negative, positive, and neutral ways. And with language, uh, with trauma, some people learn to be more artistic. Some people train themselves to be more artistic. Some people are naturally and train themselves to be more um, perhaps athletic. Some people train themselves to be more creative. Some are more mathematical. We each have different propensities and different potentials. But even within each individual field of how we can be conditioned and train ourselves, then that is also um, I believe, very important to pay attention to throughout your life. Um, what programs you hold and what programs you carry. Next, I think it will be best to move into the topic of what I was talking about earlier as the body being a vessel, a vehicle, and a tool. And the way that it can be a tool, for example, is especially with the brain and subconscious mind. By the way, they're not the same. There is no part of the brain in particular that has ever been scientifically found to be the subconscious mind. There are conscious and subconscious parts of every part of it, I believe, my understanding anyway. But the subconscious mind is a lot more than the brain. It's like uh, an inner energy field that's very personal to each of us. Um, let's talk about the subconscious mind for a bit. I find this fascinating because it's like a programmable machine or like a computer, even. It's programmable. It doesn't necessarily have divinity or holiness or spirit or any particular bias or even negativity by itself innately. The subconscious mind is programmable, and it especially is susceptible to numbers and symbols and patterns, as well as colors and, of course, also smells, but especially numbers and symbols and patterns. So it doesn't really have much more maturity naturally than an 8-year old, although it has its own intelligence, um, intellect anyway, and wisdom and like high intelligence, really, kind of like AI in a way. It can respond to your questions and respond to your inquiries and respond to your desires and what you tell it and the stimuli you give it, um, very quickly, and even in ways that we do not particularly expect, or ways that we don't design with our conscious minds. And so it's, for example, it's when you ask a question, um, let's say when you have a particular thought in your mind and you ask a question or a particular thought you want to speak about or a particular thing you want to do. It's like when you walk in a room, you forget what you're going to do, but a particular idea when you're talking to someone can also be an example of when you have multiple things to talk about and then you forget, or you have something you want to say but forget about it, and then it's like you know you almost know what it is, but you can't quite speak about it, or it's like on the tip of your tongue and you can't really articulate it or um, focus on it anymore. But then what I've found works pretty well is to ask the subconscious mind what that thing is and what it is, especially ask 3 times in a row. What was I going to talk about? What was I going to do? What did I forget? What was I, so on and so forth. And by asking those questions, it responds. Sometimes it does take a little bit of time, depending on what else you're doing or what else you move into. Like if you end the conversation and move on, and then you remember while you're doing something a little bit later, or sometimes just asking that question about what you're going to talk about or what you're going to do 3 times consecutively, then that really does spark or trigger that memory. So that's an example. Um, it's especially programmable with numbers. For example, when you're doing math homework, um, I haven't done math homework in years, technically, But during math homework, you have all these equations and problems on a page, and um, you see the numbers, you put them together, you add, subtract, multiply, divide, try to find certain qualities, coefficients, the exponents, and so on, and other numbers that you're trying to solve for, even letters you're trying to solve for, or whatever else. And you solve it, you perhaps remember exactly what you did on every number for a little while. But then if it's not actually important to you, then that data, at least the details of it, kind of just go away. Um, it depends. Some people do have very good attention memory. Everyone can. I certainly can on particular things when I focus on them and when I need to remember and want to remember. But generally, the subconscious mind will forget things that are unimportant and details that are unimportant. And so it's like that. You can program the subconscious mind with a series of numbers, even a telephone number, for example, is a good example. It's an area code, which is usually 3 digits in America, and then 3 digits, and another four. So it's like 7 unique numbers for the phone number plus the area code. And it's been proven, they designed the phone numbers this way, by the way, for this. It's been proven that the brain, human brain at least, can keep track of generally 7 numbers at one time. Sometimes more, sometimes 8 or 9 or 10 or some more, depending on training, perhaps, and natural intelligence. There are many factors of that. I think bees can keep track of 6 or 7, sometimes numbers at a time. They've been proven to be able to do math. That's interesting. And so the human mind, anyway, can keep track of 7 digits at one time. And so that's why there's 7 unique digits in our phone numbers, so that we can look at the digits, remember them for a few moments, and remember what area code to put in, dial it, and then for important numbers, you might dial again and again for a friend, or most people use contacts and speed dials on their phone now. So most people don't remember phone numbers anymore, I think. I don't remember many off the top of my head. Um, so if it's an important number you remember, or that you've burned into your memory, then you remember it. But yeah, that's the way the subconscious mind works. Kind of similar with, I think it's even better with symbols, honestly. At least my mind is. Um, with geometry and particular symbols, even letter characters and glyphs. Um, Typically, this is why languages get so imprinted into our memory from a young age, and even as we grow up and as we go through our lives, we learn languages and words, and especially the ones that are important and that we repeat, then we don't forget them. And so then we learn the languages and the sounds that go along with the symbols, even the tones with some languages. And so that's an example of programming. Actually, a big part of hypnotherapy, at least the hypnotherapy that I do, is focused around symbols and imagery, to use one image and even transmute it and then replace it with another image, depending on what you want and what your goal is. And so that's a big part of my hypnotherapy that I do for tinnitus, that I do for trauma, even things like fears, phobias, habits, reprogramming all of those. I've learned how to actually reverse fears and phobias, which is interesting how that works. And reverse programmed fears and phobias, even if it's from mind control, government mind control programs. So, yeah, hypnosis is that powerful. And so the next subject I actually want to talk about is initiations, and this is something I've been wanting to talk about for a while. I'll probably write a blog article on my website about it too soon. But initiations, um, really the whole point of this talk about programming and reprogramming and conditioning in the body and the energy body and nervous system and subconscious mind and brain and conscious mind. You have to understand all of this, I think, or it's good to understand all of this. It helps a lot to then be able to understand more of the real meaning of life, at least the way I have come to understand it. And this is one kind of hypothesis and belief that I have about the meaning of life. And I'll just try to explain this briefly. But the meaning of life is that we have these bodies. By the way, our souls, before they incarnate, are so vastly powerful and intelligent as they are connected to the God source creator of the universe, that we, maybe even our angel and spirit teams and whoever else and God itself, we can choose exactly which bodies we want to live in. And every individual soul does. We just forget that when we pass through the Maya of forgetfulness, the veil of forgetfulness, to come into this world. And so we choose the genetics, the diseases, the functioning of our body, depending on what we want to, what our soul wants to learn. If we want to learn how to heal a disease, if we want to learn compassion for having a disease, or for learning how to, let's say, learn how to live a high quality of life by living in a short, destined period of time, if you have a terminal illness. If you want to learn more self-love and compassion and self-care from having a hereditary and seemingly irresistible disease, such as an autoimmune condition. There are many out there, many things people are afflicted by. You even choose the genetics of how strong you want to be. If you want to be super muscular, if you want to be super intellectual, if you want to have a really good, strong memory. There are so many ways that people can choose their bodies and how it serves them. Um, even what I've learned is we even choose. It's a bit controversial, I'll admit, but we even choose our ethnicity and our exact, probably exact skin tone and genetic details based on how we want to participate in the life wave, which is like waves of souls participating in certain communities and groups and group consciousness. At least Gigi Young on YouTube has talked about the life wave. That's like collective karma and collective consciousness and incarnations. And so we choose what bodies we are in, even our geographical location, the city, the state, the country, and what communities, what religions and philosophies we want to believe in and be a part of. And so we need to learn all of this, I think, in depth to really understand the meaning of life as I know it. And the meaning of life as I know it is that we have these bodies that we choose, our souls choose them with our souls as in partnership with God's free will too. We each have free will, but that's not separate from God's will either, because we are each creations and children of God, or the Creator, Divine Mother, Divine Father, however you want to call that Creator thing that we come from. So, yeah, we choose all of this. We come here, we get traumatized, we get conditioned, we get hurt by people so that we learn to forgive and heal and learn to love other people and love ourselves and learn to forgive and heal within ourselves energetically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, on all levels, however you do it, so that our souls can learn this stuff, get hurt, pick stuff up, carry it around throughout many years of our lives, and then let go of the baggage, become more free, become more energetically free as souls, have less attachments, heal our karma, heal our emotions, which, by the way, emotions and karma are like DNA strands almost, or like water and life and light and dark. They can't really exist without each other. Emotions directly are how we create and interact with our karma. I'll talk about emotions and karma more in another video. So anyway, we do all this to ourselves, to our soul family, and our soul family does this to each other and ourselves, so that we learn eventually how to heal, whether that be with God, with universal energy, with religion, with spirituality, with even with art, with hypnotherapy, with other forms of therapy, communicating with spirits, with fairies, with dragons, angels. I can't even list everything that people can use to heal. It's everything under the sun, really. And so the purpose of life as I know it, I want to explain in this video. Purpose of life is to learn all this, and then through the process of healing and reunification, the process of at-one-ment, atonement with God and the source of all life, the source of everyone else's lives, become one with that again. And not only become one with that again, but through these healings. By the way, one of the things I want to talk about is initiations, and that's, I believe, part of the meaning of life. There are many initiations that people can go through with certain religions and spiritual systems, traditions, ancestral lineages, and even just challenges in life are initiations, that teach our soul something and then bring our soul to a higher level of understanding, a greater level of strength, a greater level of integrity. Perhaps our hearts may grow through adversity and pain, and learn to be more compassionate and loving, and you name it. And so that's the meaning of life, is to go through these experiences to grow as souls, so that we can access these higher levels of the afterlife. That's one option anyway. I'll talk about more about the soul and afterlife in another video. That's like a big topic. But basically what I can say right now is that anyone can die, just like as I was saying in episode 3 last time. We can live and we can die and we can be stuck in this world. But even if part of us gets stuck in this world, then I believe that the true soul of us, each of us, still goes back to the spirit world. Near-death experiencers, and many people experience it as many different forms, and usually light and colors and other things. Some people see religious figures, loved ones, and so on. But we can each die and we can each go back to the spirit world. But even in the spirit world, in the astral world, as a part of this world and the spirit world, I've learned that there are multiple levels that you can access, but not everyone has access. They're like VIP clubs. You need to have a certain status, you need to have a certain energetic vibration, a certain type of wisdom, be a part of a certain type of soul family, um, have a certain amount of discipline, dedication, and perhaps here's the number one thing you ever need to learn in life: responsibility. Responsibility is like the number one thing you ever need to learn to grow as a soul, to be responsible for everything that you are, everything within your own mind and energy field, your subconscious mind while you're here, responsibility with how you project your energy and mind and everything outside of you through these millions of energy filaments that connect each human and creature, connecting each part of us, each particle of us, to every other particle of existence and every other spirit in existence. Yeah, that's like a big thing. And even the densities and dimensions that we don't see outside of the visible wavelength that our eyeballs can see, there's like, wow, there are worlds and worlds, layers and layers of worlds going on around us all the time. Ghosts, aliens, spirits, fairies, ancestors, angels, even dark spirits, demons, tricksters, shapeshifters. Yeah, a lot of dark ones, certainly, and energy vampires, energy vampire spirits in particular. Um, and I can't list all of the types of spirits, but you probably get the picture that there's just so much going on outside of our visible wavelength that we don't see and hear that's going on all the time. At least for most of us who aren't clairvoyant and clairaudient and clairsentient and intuitive and empathic and claircognizant and whatever other senses we have. So that's a glimpse at reality too. And so this is like one big large topic. And so this is why initiations are so important and so powerful, is that through, let's say, fire walking, through Egyptian mystery school initiations of healing and exploring with Isis and Osiris and other spirits, and through um, even guided meditations, through, let's say, getting cultural tattoos um, to prove a certain, that record maybe a certain lineage or a certain energetic status, or have certain symbols for healing and protection and other things, and rituals, ceremonies. Even a graduation ceremony at a school can be an initiation. And so that's kind of, there are many examples of initiations, many levels. Learning discipline and learning responsibility is a general type of initiation by itself. And for those of you who are curious, I have been petting my sweet little companion Lavender. Say hi, Lavender. She loves you all. She's my companion in healing, my partner in healing, my familiar. I work with her in hypnosis. Her spirit helps and gets things and fetches things, and so she's very loved and special. So I'll go into some initiations, probably specific ones, and how some of them might work. And you have to be careful I have to be careful, and everyone does around initiations because there are certain things initiates can and can't talk about. Some people probably have already on the internet, I'm sure, but still some secrets remain. And so this is the thing that I want to kind of get around to, kind of a hypothesis. A thesis really is that our bodies are so sensitive. They're water mostly, and all these other elements of air, of other earthly elements, especially, and quite a beautiful synergy. I'll make another video specifically talking about the body and in many ways how it works, but basically it works with geometry. All of nature does work with geometry. And so, and energy too. The more I've found that the more I have done deep healing and deep awakening and um, have learned certain energy healing techniques, the more sensitive I've become to life energies, even in meats specifically, and some foods. And there have been times that after energy healings and psychic and Reiki healings and angel healings and other things, I've become so just sensitive to energies that even with vegan and vegetarian foods, I have become sensitive to where they've been, how they've been processed, if they were murdered or slaughtered, really, I guess is maybe a more technical term for animal meats. But anyway, if they've been raised with GMOs or if they have added chemicals, even just by eating a bite or a few bites of something, sometimes I've been able to sense and discern if something is energetically healthy or unhealthy for me, and especially if it's labeled a certain way or if someone doesn't tell me much about the food and then I eat it and then I do just get a very distinct image in my mind or sense and reading that it indeed has been essentially poisoned with GMOs and pesticides and herbicides and other things and um, artificial colors and sweeteners and dyes. So, a little bit about initiations. If you are interested in learning more about initiations and wish to work with some initiations yourself too, or wish to try my hypnotherapy, or if you need hypnotherapy for anything such as tinnitus, trauma healing, if you need to reprogram fears, phobias, emotions, habits, if you're just feeling lethargic and need to find inner motivation, cultivate it. Um, Also, if you want to learn more about manifesting with emotions in the subconscious mind and how that mechanism works, then I can teach you more about that in our sessions along with hypnotherapy. My sessions also include energy healing now, Reiki, and of course, hypnotherapy can be energy healing by itself. Um, they're distance sessions via Zoom, and we also offer medical hypnosis. That can be for things like tinnitus. I already have that specialty, and perhaps weight loss, pain relief. I've been able to do on myself, and so I have good understanding of that as well as on other people. I've helped people with, let's say you're afraid of the dentist or have this is a real thing apparently, an official condition, dental fear. And so if you have that, I've actually seen great success in helping people reprogram that, and then they become much more comfortable at the dentist and have absolutely no problems at their next visits. And um, that can also, I believe, be translated to doctors' offices too, and really anywhere. I've seen that work in my clients in fear of public spaces, fear of even being outdoors. Some people have had, especially those who've been in mind control programs and who've been conditioned to think that everything's out to get them, or someone's going to attack them, even just by them being outside in public. And so, yeah, that has been profound to watch that transformation. Some people reach out to me, and I'm sure that I'll be able to help you figure out and reprogram anything that you have going on. We always can do a free consultation and figure out if your problem is within my scope as a hypnotherapist. Most of my work, I would say, though, is on the mental, emotional, and spiritual plane. But of course, as we live in these bodies, I've learned a great deal about how to move energy. And not just recently with my hypnotherapy training and now Reiki certification, but going back the last 10 or 11 years into my Tai Chi and Qigong trainings with multiple masters, that has been a great wealth of knowledge of how energies move through the body, and even more recently with how the subconscious mind and emotions affect energy in the body. So I would be happy to work with anyone, with any of you. You may visit newbeinghypnosis.com to learn more. Also, if you want to donate to the Reality Orphanage in Uganda, you can also learn about that on my homepage at New Being Hypnosis, and click on the image to make a secure donation to that orphanage. They're struggling with money, with food. They don't have clean water access still. I'm working on getting them or helping them get a clean water system going, but that's quite expensive. And anyway, yeah, that's one of my missions, is helping to build and uplift and bring the essentials of life, at least, to this orphanage in Mayuge, Uganda. And so let's keep that going and get them some funds, because every month I'll be donating 1%. This will be an ongoing thing. It's not just a temporary thing. 1% of my monthly earnings to that that orphanage. And so that will be amazing if we can even get them fed every day, or if we can get them a clean water system soon. They also need some clean clothes, I believe, for the children. They have like 45 approximately children there, and a newborn baby now. And the children, of course, need school money to attend schools and afford school supplies. And I have the public Facebook group going, Saving the Reality Orphanage. You can join. And in the description of that group, I have their website linked up to make a donation. There I'll also be with the founder sharing updates about what your donations and our donations are doing for them, and the good it's creating for them. And yeah, you can keep up that way and see the good that we're creating in the world. Also, if you want discounts, great discounts on my hypnotherapy services, you can go to my Patreon channel, which is linked in the description below this video. And there are 3 different tiers, but you can become a monthly member to make a small donation that gets you greater discounts on my hypnotherapy with each session. And so that adds up a lot. And so please take advantage of that. As always, I wish you unconditional blessings from the light of Sirius, as we are all sacred beings and all interconnected on this planet and beyond. I hope that you are also benefiting from listening to your guidance and wisdom, and even oracle cards or divination, however you do it, or psychic readers, your angels, your ancestors. however you are receiving your guidance through whatever you are aware of and believe in. So, to end this video, I will do another brief tone from this high vibrational singing bowl. Whenever I ring this, I feel it around my crown and sacral center, especially, but I believe it clears out a lot of energy where it needs to be and helps activate things where they need to be, what needs to be activated. So, enjoy. Thank you. Much love your way.